What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. James here. And in today's video, I wanted to kind of break down the $100 million playbooks that I spent 9,000 Australian dollars on, so about 6,000 US dollars on, from the latest Alex Hormozi launch. Took a while for it to reach here in Australia. And the reason I wanted to break this down is not because I want to capitalize off you searching up Alex Hormozi's name and finding my channel. That's not the reason why. It's because I'm a offer owner. I have a coaching business. We do over $250,000 per month. I really do practice what I preach on this channel. I help high ticket coaches scale their offers to over 6 figures a month, but the only reason why I'm able to do that is because I do it myself and my own offer that is completely separate to working with coaches. And so what I wanted to do is kind of just go through all these different playbooks that I bought and kind of just give you a bit of a rundown on what I found useful, what I'm actually going to be implementing, different things I think are great in here that I already do, that help me have my coaching business where it is now, and basically give some insights in terms of what I think can be valuable here. If you are a high ticket coach and you are looking to scale to 6-figure months and beyond, whether there's stuff in here that is really useful for you, different strategies I enjoy. I don't own any of the copyright to this stuff. I'm not here trying to sell you a service. I'm not here to get you to buy this either. I don't even think you can buy it anymore. But I want to at least go through some of these and give you some insights in terms of what I found useful. So let's go through them. You get a bunch of playbooks, and they're all different things around pricing and hooks and ads and retention and LTV and different things that can be really, really helpful for growing a high ticket coaching business. And I figured we may as well just go through a couple of them. So the first thing is the $100 million playbook around proof. So the proof checklist in terms of having proof to increase your believability in the eyes of a prospect. Now, I was told from a very young age when I was starting out internet marketing from my very first coach who was really teaching me copy and marketing, Jason Capital. He talked about proof is your God. And what that really meant was the fact that above all else, didn't matter how clever you were with your marketing or your headlines or your ads or your funnel structure or anything, if you didn't have proof to show that what you do really is real, proof that the outcome that you help people get actually works, like you are dead in the water. And proof is your God is really like what that is all about, is making sure that you're very, very aware of the fact you need to put proof front and center. And so inside of this, it's basically just going through all the different types of proof that you can use in your ads and your marketing, your material and your sales pitches to increase that believability. And so inside of here, and I've got some notes here just so that I'm not just sitting there with my nose in a book the entire time, there were a few things that I thought were really, really good. And so some of the points that I thought were useful, whether you have a new offer, you're scaling an offer, you're running ads, you're doing organic content, whatever it may be, is first of all, in-person proof is better than virtual proof. It's very, very easy for us to put together, screenshots and testimonials and just put all virtual stuff up, and that's great. But in person is so much better than having virtual stuff. And I know this because with a lot of our clients in my main coaching business, we're an e-com offer, we help beginners get started in the online space. A lot of the stuff that we do is we go out there and we have in-person meetups, we do in-person events. And we do that for our beginner clients, our more advanced clients, we special events for them. And the cool thing is just having photos and videos of us with our clients, with members who are making money, and just putting those up on our pages, on our funnels, or in our ads. It increases the believability overall that we're not just some sort of scammy course out there, like we're really helping people. And they can see that in terms of people are smiling, they're in a room, we're having food, we're having drinks together, we're teaching, we're sharing. That is not going to be what a group made of people who don't actually practice what they preach and actually deliver on the results that they talk about. You wouldn't see that. You would see them just behind a computer and that's it. They never meet their clients face to face. But in-person proof is much better than virtual proof. Another one is raw versus processed testimonials. So one of the things that I do on my main channel with my main offer is I upload completely raw and uncut interviews and testimonials with my clients. So I'll hop on a Zoom with them and I'll say, hey, listen, I just want to talk about your story. And I'll ask you about where they were before, where they were when they started, some of the biggest objections they had before they jumped in and the hurdles they had to face along the way and where they are now. And the coolest thing is obviously, knock on wood, I've never had to actually edit a single one of these in terms of like a little jump cut. I've never start adding B-roll and all kinds of weird shit into it, because the reason why it works so well is because it's just an unfiltered conversation with a prospect who became a client who got the results. I love the fact that it's from start to finish, it's just a whole chat for 20 to 30 minutes and it's completely raw. It's unfiltered. And again, when people look at that, even if they don't watch the whole thing, that in turn is a form of proof that you are the real deal, because you're not sitting here showing little highlights. It's like, no, here's a whole conversation with the client. Talking about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. That's what I love. It's the warts and all side of things. And so if you are going out there and putting up even just an ad, an ad campaign where you're running testimonials, you don't necessarily have to edit them like a Christopher Nolan. You can very much just put raw testimonials stacked together, back to back to back to back, an ugly ad with a bunch of raw, unfiltered, warts and all testimonials, but that will oftentimes have way more of an effect on the prospect in terms of showing them the proof that you are the real deal and that you're not just editing it to sound good. I thought that was a really, really good reminder, and especially since, we do a lot of reels, we do a lot of YouTube stuff on my other channel, on my other Instagram, where it's like, I have to edit it. I think that I need to do that all the time to make sure it's engaging and it's cool enough for the person. It's like, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I need to do less of that and more raw stuff like this. Another thing was show versus tell. You could have a million different ads where you're talking about, hey, my client made this much money in 90 days. Or you could just show the ugly screenshots. And it's like, it's so simple, but it's so true. Another thing is we have a software for our clients where once they find a winning product that they can use for their e-commerce business, we have a little software called Liz, which is a tool that they right click and it puts a product up on the platform automatically. They don't have to create copy and headlines and descriptions and edit their photos and that kind of stuff. They just do a couple of clicks. And one of the things we do on our sales calls is we don't talk about it. We just share our screen and show them. So we say, see this product, boom, now it's up, now it's ready for sale. Oh my God, that's so crazy. But again, it's show versus tell. We're not just telling them about it. We show them how it works, and that increases the believability. It's better proof in terms of just talking about it. Another thing is in terms of the ads, I thought this was such a great reminder, was identical to them is far better to opposite of them. So we, for the most part, with our e-commerce offer, we mainly work with Australians. And so I don't use sort of American spokespeople. I don't use people from the other side of the world. I use Australians with Australian accents as a spokespeople. I use Australian examples. I reference Australian cities. I use things that match the people who are going to be seeing the ad. And therefore, my response rate and my ROAS is going to be far better than if I just use a standard spokesperson or I didn't lean into the market that I want to be speaking to. So for example, if you had a weight loss offer for mums, but you are going out there and you're running ads as a big jacked guy with a six-pack, it's like you might have a harder time than it is if you had a spokesperson who looks like the kind of client you want to work with. Another one is newer proof versus older proof. And this was another thing that I'm like, I do this all the time and I can see why it works so well. And a lot of the things in these books as we go through it, a lot of them are things that I already do. And I've had to learn along the way of just kind of running my coaching business and finding out what works and what doesn't. A lot of things that I share here on the channel. But oftentimes reminding yourself why you do it, the reason behind it, why it works, is far better than getting a bunch of brand new strategies. Because when you remember why you do things, you do more of the thing that already works. And so, for example, on my Instagram stories, I will oftentimes throughout the week and oftentimes daily, I'll just post a bunch of screenshots of wins from my Facebook group with our clients. I'll say, hey, here's this person who started 2 days ago. They started making money. This person just hit their first $5,000 in sales, whatever it is. And I'll post, and I'll do the raw, unfiltered screenshots. I won't, blur everything out and everything like that. But I do it consistently. And the reason why is because it gives people the newer proof as opposed to older proof. Because if I show you, hey, this is a client who started with me in 2023 and he made this much money, that's great, but it's not the best form of proof, because the best form of proof is, hey, this guy started with me 2 days ago, and here's what he's making now. So the newer proof is far better than the older proof. So going out there and showing people the newest clients, what are they doing? When we're on sales calls, we don't just talk about results. We open up our client group and we just scroll through the most recent posts and we see this person just started. Here's the money that they made. This person just started. Here's how much they made. Because newer proof, current proof, what's happening right now, is always going to be far better than what happened 3 years ago. Another thing is more proof is better than less proof. Don't feel like you're going to overwhelm the person by going out there and sending them 1,000 testimonials on a huge page. Sometimes that scroll effect, even if they're not reading everything, if they're seeing that before a sales call, they're going to be more bought in on the idea that you can actually deliver them the results you talk about than if you just said, hey, listen, we have a lot of clients we've helped. Sometimes people get so scared of doing overkill, but oftentimes overkill is a thing that really does make a difference. Another thing is third-party verification versus zero verification. And so one of the things that I made a change with was on our confirmation pages and our thank you pages when somebody books in a call with us, I would have our Trustpilot badge. So we have a Trustpilot, it's like 4.9 out of 5 with hundreds of reviews. I'm very proud of that. And I added now pointing out the fact that this is third-party verified. There's not like zero verification, could be fake reviews or anything like that. It is, hey, Trustpilot is an unbiased platform. And on here, you cannot pay for reviews. You cannot pay for reviews to get removed. It is genuinely like these are real reviews from real clients. And I added that in, and I have noticed more people referencing the Trustpilot reviews or I read the reviews and they love the reviews, and that helped them make that decision to jump into the program. It's such a small thing, but I thought that was so genius, and I immediately added it in, and I started looking at how people started responding to it from there, and I've definitely seen an increase. And so the bottom line is with the proof checklist, there's a bunch more in here. But the biggest thing is remember that there are so many forms of proof, and not all forms of proof are created equal. Some forms of proof are way more believable than others. And so it's not a case of picking one or the other. It's do all of them, but do them in the highest way possible, the best way possible, the most efficient way possible. And I thought that was a really good one. The next one is retention. So how do you retain clients? Now, I'm not going to go through everything through every playbook, like I said, but there was a few key points in this that I really liked. The first thing was identifying activation points. And so an activation point I learned quite a while ago was the idea of in every single, say, coaching program or any offer, there is a certain point where somebody goes from, I've started doing this to, yeah, I'm like all in now. Like I'm doing this thing, like this is what I do, right? They've still got kind of one foot out the door when they're starting out. It's not something they're fully done yet. They haven't taken on the identity just yet. But once you get to a certain point, that's when you're like, all right, cool, this is real. So for example, the example that I first heard about activation points was with ClickFunnels. And so they found that the point where they got the client to stick, The activation point to get them to retain and have a higher retention rate was them buying a domain on ClickFunnels. So they go and they pay the $10 or $12 for a year for a domain name that they'll put into their ClickFunnels account. Because once they've done that, they're like, oh, cool, well, I've paid for a domain. Like, I'm officially a funnel hacker. I build funnels now. That's my thing. And I thought it was really interesting. And so it was a very similar thing for us with Ecom which is my main program where I help people get started with e-commerce, my main offer. With that, specifically, what we do is our goal is to get people to the point where they put their first product up on the first platform we sell on. And the way that we got them there is by removing all the fluff, we remove all the mindset videos early on, and then we give them a tool that helps them find products and puts them up within a few seconds. And so by doing that, we get way more people to get that first product up. They go, oh, that was easy. I can do that again. I can do that again. I can do that again. I now do ecom. That's the whole goal. And it's far better to do that within their first couple of days than it is to take them 3 months to build a Shopify store, which again is a cool thing around the model that we teach. But identifying your activation points, what is the thing that makes them go from, hey, I've just started this thing to, oh, this is real. That's one of the biggest things. Another thing is onboarding requires you to resell them and provide maximum clarity. So when you onboard a client, if you want to retain them, if you want to make sure they stick around, you want to make sure that when they jump in, they're not getting buyer's remorse, or they're not confused, or they're not like they lose interest in what it is you do. And so when you onboard somebody into the program, you don't just go, all right, cool, now here's all the boring shit you have to do. Now you got to make sure that you actually resell them on why they should care about this thing in the first place. And so what we do is with our first step of our program, I was thinking about this, I'm like, yeah, we really do this stuff, is the first step of multiple steps inside of our course. We obviously go through welcome to the program, and here's what your first steps are, and they have exact clarity on what they need to do and why they need to do it, make it as simple as possible. But a lot of it's like reselling them on why they just paid the money to join the program. Here's why it's great. When I started out in the online business game, I was super scared as well, but it changed my life. Here's my story. Here's the story of other clients who've done this, and here's why this is such a big deal for you. I resell them, because then they're going through all the steps with that fresh in their mind as to why this is a good move for them, why this is important for them to do it. So they're resold, and they're not going to suddenly churn 2 days in and go, I want out, I want a refund. Because sometimes people just need to be resold on why they did it. Because the logical brain starts kicking in, they're looking at all these videos, they're looking at all these steps, and they go, oh, maybe I don't want to do this. So it's a big thing there. Another thing is incentivizing customer activation. So what we do is, for us, we put deadlines for the next one-on-one call, and we get our coach to go, listen, all right, you've joined the program, and 2 weeks from now, you have your first one-on-one call. And so during this time, we want to make sure that you get your first product up in your first couple of days. We'll make sure you do this, you do this, you do this. And we put the deadline there of like, you have 2 weeks to really start to hammer this, so we have some feedback we can give you on that first one-on-one call. And I think that that's great. And that's a good way for us to get them to that activation point. But I do think one thing that was really cool in this book that I could do a lot better is actually having more of an incentive to get them to the activation point. So one thing was offering rewards or bonuses for those who move faster. And that was one of the probably the best ideas I actually got from this thing, because if I can do something like, for our clients, if you get your first product up within 24 hours, you unlock this cool bonus. And it could be something really valuable. It could be a list of products so they get to get even more products faster, whatever it may be. But by doing that, it incentivizes them to go through the program quicker. So they take on the identity of somebody who's doing the program faster. So the activation point gets hit. And as well, they get rewarded for it. They get rewarded for taking action, which obviously helps in the long term. So cool, deadlines and having your coach encourage them is one thing. But what if they get rewarded for reaching that activation point earlier? I think that's amazing. It's something I haven't thought about. And I'm going to be adding it. I think it's a brilliant idea. Another couple of things was around community. So if you want to make sure that somebody doesn't sort of churn, one of the best things you can do is get them to feel like they're a part of a community. And so, we do events, we do meetups with our clients, but those are only a few times a year. One thing that I thought was really great that Alex talked about inside of the playbook was you want to connect people with people who are like-minded. If somebody joins from Melbourne in Australia, well, they're supposed to say, hey, here's a couple of people from Melbourne, you should meet them, or put them in a group chat, hey, can you introduce them to the program? So they start to make some friends. You never know, they get coffee, they get some drinks, and then they're now a part of a community, so they're less likely to want to churn and pull out for no reason. On the flip side as well, it's actually making sure that when you go to the events, it's like actually physically introducing these people. Even if it's not just digitally, could also be physically. Hey, you guys are in Melbourne, cool. You guys should hang out together. You guys, you also train at the gym. This guy he's an MMA fighter. You guys should meet. You guys would be really cool. And sort of creating more of that rapport within the group. So these people, again, feel closer and closer and closer, helping with the retention side of things. And the last thing was around cancellations and refunds. And we are somebody where, look, if I have a client in any retrospect, or any program that I have, if they don't want to work with me, I'm not going to hold their money hostage. It's not who I am. I feel really gross about that stuff. I'm here to add value and help you make a ton of money. I'm not here to hold your money hostage if you hate me, which doesn't happen, but in the case of it is, I wouldn't want to hold the money hostage. But especially when you're working with more of a mass market program, especially when you're working with a lot of beginners, people who are sort of mass market B2C, you have a lot of people who, I don't know, they just need to be resold or realigned with why it is they were doing this thing in the first place. Maybe some last minute nerves kick in. Maybe they're just a little bit unsure about, well, is it going to work for me or not? I'm not too sure. And they sometimes ask for a refund when realistically they don't want a refund. They just want to be reassured that this is going to be the right thing for them. But oftentimes people then start to fight back and they go, no refunds, you signed this contract and therefore you can't have a refund. When in actuality, what you should be doing is just having a conversation with them and realigning them with what it is that they wanted to do in the first place, and just sort of just feeling them out, hearing them out for a second, and then reminding them why it's actually a good idea for them to finish what it is that they've started. And so what Alex talks about is having some sort of cancellation or refund call. So if somebody wants to get a refund, or somebody wants to cancel their membership, whatever it may be, depending on what program or what service you offer, it's a really, really good idea for you to say, cool, what we do is we always do it by call, so we can go ahead and offboard you properly, we can refund you properly, etc. And on that call, the coach's job is really just to listen and to care and empathize and ask what's going on. And usually it's going to be a bit of fear or a bit of nerves or a bit of doubt, which can be easily handled. You just realign them with what it is that they came to the program to do in the first place. And it's not you being sleazy or salesy, it's like they've come to you for help. We don't want to stop them from getting the help they need to get the result, assuming that your program gets them results and gets them where they want to go. And I think that's an amazing, amazing idea, and it's something that I haven't really thought about doing. And it's something that I want to do, because I don't like when people, don't finish what it is they've started, because I know that I can help them. Any client who comes to me, if they apply what it is I teach, whether they're somebody who's looking to get started with e-commerce as a beginner, or there's somebody who has a coaching business they want to scale, like I know what I do and I know what I do works, and I want to make sure they can see it through to the end to get the results they signed up for. But that's another thing as well, is all these strategies around retention. These are just a couple, but around making sure that they reach the activation point, they feel like they're a part of a community, and if they do have those last minute nerves and they want to churn, well, let's figure out why and let's get them back on the right page. But that's the retention side of things. Now let's get into the marketing machine one, which was interesting. All right, so we got the marketing machine one. It's a very thin one, and there was a couple of things that I thought were cool in here. The first one was just a reminder of, if you want to sell a coaching business, which is harder to do than your average business to sell, you need to make sure that you do remove the founder risk of having one face in the majority of your ads and the majority of the selling. And that's something that I'm guilty of, but I'm getting better and better at over the last 6 months. I've actually found different faces, different avatars, and different spokespeople that have outperformed me massively. For a long time, I was the only person in my ads, and no matter how clever I was or how well written my ads were, I might get a click-through rate of 0.5% or 1% over a certain amount of time. And that really pissed me off. So I tried a bunch of different angles, a bunch of different templates and hooks and everything like that. And I definitely got improvements, but never really got anything crazy, at least 2, 3, 4% click-through rates that I really wanted, until I used a different face. And so I started using different guys and different girls, and I started getting these 2%, 3%, 4%, 5%, 6% click-through rates. And I realized that my face doesn't necessarily need to be the only thing they see. You can actually get worse results than if I had other faces in place. And also, it's a bad idea to have that there as well if I ever did want to sell my coaching company. And so in this case, it was a really good reminder in terms of marketing machine. But the main thing that's touched on here is that if you are going out there and you are marketing at scale, and if you are running ads or you run a coaching business and you're doing, say, 30, 40, 50 grand a month or more, you know that you do need to pump out a good amount of content. You do need to pump out a good amount of ad creatives. And so one of the biggest things is making sure that you have enough material to work with. And it's not just you sitting there in front of a camera and just talking, right? So all these different things where if you look at around your little world of your clients and your business, it's like all these different places you can find stuff to use in your ads, in your content. And so it was a massive, massive list from Alex, but a few that I thought were really, really good and really useful for me. And they're also very easy things for you if you have a coaching business to do. Client interviews, huge. They're free, they don't cost anything, but they're great marketing material. You've got client coaching calls, so recordings of client coaching calls. You have little sound bites, little snippets of things people said or did or talked about that you can use as marketing. They're talking about their results, they're talking about what they love about the program. Cool, that's an ad, that's a testimonial, that's there. Client chats, so screenshots of client chats, or client wins, them talking about what they've achieved, what their outcome was, what sales they made that day, whatever it may be. Just client testimonials in general, ask them to do that. UGC from clients, people who are filming little vlogs of them at different events, or if you're at an event that you're holding with your clients, filming ads while you're there on stage, going up and doing man on the street content. If you're at an event, you got your clients there running around and with a microphone going, hey, by the way, what's your name? Where were you when you joined the program? What's your outcome? Like, what have you achieved as a result of being in the program? How much money did you make last month? All that kind of stuff. Like, that's amazing. And another thing that I thought was genius that I hadn't thought about, but Alex talked about, was the idea of getting testimonials. Basically, if you do a testimonial under these certain conditions, you touch on these certain things, you will get a free giveaway of some super valuable thing. So there's brand new training. It's only people who pass in a testimonial, because I'm doing this big marketing campaign. If you send a video testimonial, good lighting, you talk about like where you were before, where you are now, and what you would recommend for people who are looking to get started. If you send that to me, I will give you this free thing. that's genius, especially if you have a lot of clients you've worked with over the years. You send that out, you can get 50, 100 testimonials like that. And that is a lot of marketing material that you can run for a very, very long time. And that just allows you to have this big stream of just content and assets that you can use to continuously advertise your business, not just you in front of the camera making promises, which I thought was great. And again, above all else, what this was, just a reminder, hey, don't just rely on your own face, especially if you want to sell your company. And as well, here's a million and one different ways for you to go out there and get material to use in your advertising content, which is cool. Now, lifetime value. This was a really interesting one because for us, we have some cool stuff that we use for increasing lifetime value. We don't try to maximize it, to tens and tens and tens of thousands, because at the end of the day, we work with beginners. And in that specific market, I don't like to push it as far as some other people do. There's a point where I sort of ethically feel like, let's keep it around here. But for us, there is a few things we do. So in here, there's a crazy 8 that he talks about, the crazy 8 of lifetime value. Again, I'm not taking any copyright, or I don't say that I come up with any of this stuff. I'm just passing on some of this stuff to you. The crazy 8 are raising your prices. So these are all ways to increase your lifetime value. Raise your prices, lower the cost to deliver, how often you upsell, different cross-sell strategies, upsell more of the same, upsell a better version of the product. If they say no to that, you downsell less of the same, or you downsell a lower quality of the same. Now, I'm not going to go into all these in major detail, but there are 3 that we do specifically, which has allowed us to go from having a front end that makes us a certain amount of money to having a back end and a back end on top of that, which massively increases our LTV for each client. We have raising prices, upsell frequency, and upselling a better version. So what does that look like? Raising our prices. First of all, originally I used to sell for about $1,000. I used to have a course. Group coaching wasn't as premium an offer as it is now. And so we basically sell our front end around $2.5 to $3,000 for that, increase our prices massively. And as a result, we get more profit. We have a higher lifetime value just off the rip, and that's just for our front end. Then we have upsell a better version. Now, our upsell / our back end is like I talk about here on this channel. It's basically, hey, you've learned the basics. Now you want to learn the real good stuff, like the real advanced stuff that helps you grow an even bigger e-commerce business. Well, that is in this version of the program, which they can jump into, and that is the second thing. And then we have upsell frequency, which is the frequency of what it is that they get billed. So we upsell more frequency of like billing. And that's after they've gone through the front end, they've gone through the back end. Then after that, we have a MRR offer where they can continuously pay to get access to certain services and coaching and bonuses they wouldn't have if they just decided to leave, obviously. And so those are the 3 main things. And that's what I've done to get us from a very small LTV to a very, very healthy LTV, which allows us to be quite profitable on cold traffic and run cold traffic ads, because I'm not a big brand guy, which I'm going to touch on a little bit later when it comes to branding stuff. But those are the 8. Those are 3 that I've found to be the best. You, of course, could do stuff like lower the cost to deliver. I take a lot of pride in my client results. And so with that company specifically, if I lowered the cost to deliver, I would lose out on client results, and I wouldn't want that. But for some things, like if you had just a basic fitness coaching program, it probably makes sense. If you can find a way to cut costs, or you can find a way to get the same results or similar, but with less manpower, I think that's great. I think that makes a lot of sense. If you have a fitness coaching business, or you have a gym, and you can cross-sell or upsell supplements or supplement bundles or big bundles of supplements that last you a year, like that stuff, which Alex obviously talks about because he ran a gym and he had gym launch and everything, that again makes sense. But for us, we have a coaching business, and so there's only so many things we can do. Next thing is hooks. Now, hooks is honestly like my favorite thing in the world, because when I look at my coaching business, again, it does around $250,000 a month. With that coaching business specifically, the majority of my success comes from paid ads and cold traffic. And the major part of that success is just the amount of hooks that I test. I've basically always done the same body. So, here's what we do for you. Here's the proof. If you want to find out more, book a call or send me a DM. That's the body. And then I'll just switch out different hooks. And the hooks might be a question, or it might be a statement, or it might be a testimonial, and I'll jump to the body. But it'll always just be hook, body, but I just change the hook each time. And I'll be able to test so many so quickly and find the ones that work the best. And there's been a few hooks that once you find a few hooks that work well, you can absolutely rinse and run that hook into the ground. It will last you a very, very long time. And the coolest thing about this is that's something I've done for a long time. And this was just reminding me of that fact that that's exactly how it works. Hooks are really the biggest thing that drive whether your short form content is going to do well, your long form content is going to do well, your ads are going to do well. If the beginning, the hook of the content isn't interesting, it's not going to do well long term. No one's going to watch the rest of it. And so the 2 biggest things that I love is questions and statements, which is backed up in the book. So questions like, do you have a spare hour per day? Can I have your email address? Those are questions that get people's attention, and they can lead into a body, can lead into a pitch, can lead into an offer for a lead magnet or to book a call, whatever it may be. Do you have a spare hour per day? If you do, bang. Can I have your email address? I want to send you, boom. And you can lead into the body. Another thing is statement. The smartest thing that you can do today is X. or the best business model in 2025 for a beginner is X. These are statements, these are information that people can hear and go, oh, really? And either they'll go, oh, I've heard of that, I want to hear more. Or they'll go, oh, really, why? Or they'll not believe you and they have to you kind of have to back it up in your body. All of it leading, of course, to some sort of call to action or further parts of the content. Again, biggest thing is there is a lot of hooks in here. There is a lot of stuff in here. This one and the ads, like this, gold mines. Because you can go through, and one of the things that I might do is I might go through and just basically redo every single hook in here for short form and for ads and stuff like that, and just see how they do. Obviously, not everything is going to be completely relevant to my offer because these are all very different hooks and different kinds of topics and things that are brought up, but at the end of the day, I can take a lot of these and I can just run with them and see how they perform, which I think is really cool. So the hooks one, very, very good, but the biggest thing to take away is exactly what I've done for a very long time, which is just test a bunch of hooks. Try a ton of hooks, because that's going to be the way that you find what's going to work out the best. Now, on the closing one, there's a book on closing, which is a bit of a beefier one compared to the others. Now, look, I think this is great. I won't touch on a lot of this here because ultimately it's heavy. I also don't want to give away everything in here, but I do think that if you would like to do a video more so on closing and sales stuff, I will pull some stuff from this. I can do a bit of a breakdown of some of the strategies in here. I do a lot of stuff when it comes to my sales process around preventing objections as opposed to trying to close and hardcore close. This is really a book on closing. This is a bit more aggressive. And so what I like to do with a lot of my stuff is sort of do a lot of pre-marketing. So if I'm going to be doing a sales call, I like to do a lot of stuff before the call in terms of letting them know how the offer works and what do I charge and what are the guarantees and what are the risks associated with doing this? How much time does it take? Here's all the proof and the testimonials of people who are scared but did it anyway just like you, so they can hear those stories so they have them pop up on the call. I like preventing objections as opposed to try to handle objections and try to close somebody like a wolf of Wall Street. But there are moments where you do have to do that. And the biggest thing that I took away from this is some of the rebuttals, which again, not really heavy on rebuttals, not really heavy on closing, but some of the stuff in here is really, really good. In fact, one of the biggest things that I love from this, if there was one thing that I took away from this, was Alex has a thing where he basically, if someone says they want to think about it, or they want to sleep on it, or they want to do this, or want to do that, where it's very clearly an uncertainty objection or a nerves objection, whatever it may be, is he basically asks a question along the lines of, well, what are you most afraid of? If you do jump in, like, what are you afraid of? And it's one of those questions where there's all these objection handling frameworks you see all over YouTube and all over Instagram. Everyone's got a strategy and a script. But with that specifically, it cuts directly to the core of it. It cuts directly to the core of it because all of those are usually just a fear response. And they say, oh, no, I'm not afraid of anything. I just want to give it some thought. It's like, yeah, of course. But obviously you could think about it for the next 3 years. You'll still have a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of nerves there. So what are you afraid of if you do jump in? Let's say you did jump in. What are you afraid of? And you find out what it is, and then you can immediately handle that. And I love that. And it was such a small, subtle little thing, but I took a lot away from that. And I've started using that on calls, and I've started to find that I immediately cut directly to the heart of it. And it's like, well, I'm afraid it's not going to work. Or I'm afraid that I'm going to spend the money, and then my wife is going to find out, and then I haven't made any money, and then I'm going to look like an idiot. And then I can handle that, and I can show the proof that it will work for them. I can break down what happens if they don't, and they have a refund policy. All these different things that if I had taken it on sort of like surface value and just used a basic objection handling framework, I might not be able to cut to the heart of it, which I think is very, very cool. But that's the closing thing. I think it's great. I definitely do prefer pre-handling objections and trying to close somebody, hard close and twist their arm. But there's some really good stuff. I'm happy to do a breakdown on that one. And biggest thing is, what are you afraid of? Get to the heart of it and just handle that. All right, next is pricing. Now, to be completely honest with you, for a high-ticket offer like mine, there wasn't really a lot here. I don't do a lot of membership-based stuff. A lot of the examples here work really well for sort of low-ticket offers, gyms, service-based stuff. There's some really cool ninja stuff that you can do when it comes to pricing and make more money, make more profit. Some really cool philosophy around pricing that if I was building a new business from scratch, I would definitely take into consideration. For me, not a lot here that was super helpful for me specifically, just because my offer, we've kind of got our pricing structured in a way now that we kind of know what works for us, that I wouldn't really apply too much. Doesn't mean it's bad. I think it's amazing. But again, if you are using a standard high-ticket pricing model where even if you have a low ticket on the front end, you usually have a $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 front end, maybe some $20,000, $30,000 back end, depending on what kind of market you're selling in. A lot of this stuff, unless you're doing sort of like weekly billing, monthly billing, I didn't find a lot of value for me personally in this. But really great stuff, just more so not for the kind of industry I'm in. Next is lead nurture. Look, if you are making any money in your coaching business, say $10,000 a month or more, you're probably doing a lot of this stuff. And these are things that you've probably heard time and time again, where basically, if you have leads coming into your world, they're coming into your funnel, and you want to make sure that you're warming them up, and they're in a position where they're actually be eager to buy something, there's a few things you've got to take into consideration. The first thing is availability. So are you available? Is it available for them to book in at a time that suits them? If you only have 2 slots on your calendar, people think it makes you look more in demand. No, it actually makes it harder for people who are booking in but don't have time in the afternoon. You've already got time in the morning, right? Availability, have a bunch of availability there for them so they can actually book in, because you can't get them to show up and buy anything if they won't book in the first place. So availability was a big thing. Good reminder. Another thing is speed to contact. So if somebody comes in and they book in a call with you or your sales team, whatever it may be, if you reach out to them in the first minute or two, you're going to have a massively higher response rate, show rate, close rate, than if you reached out to them, say, the next day before the call. Massive, massive, massive decrease. And so that's something that we do all the time. Again, if you have a coaching business that makes any money, we do over $250,000 a month. These are things you do all the time. It's a big thing. Another thing was personalization. And I think this was a very subtle thing, but it's something people forget about, is that when you personalize your reach out or your communication with the prospect, you see a huge, huge improvement in terms of them actually being willing to show up and actually look into your offer. Because there's so many automated texts, there's so many different automated emails, there's so many different things out there that they know is automated. They can tell that it's not something that was sent by a human, and it just doesn't really stand out to them. And so for us, one of the things that we've always done is we've used iPhones to go out there and message our prospects who have a call booked in. We use iMessage, so they get the blue message they see that was sent from a real phone, so they don't think that it's coming from an automated text. And then send an ugly selfie, send a little selfie video. And what happens is they go, oh, this person's actually real. They can have a little laugh about it. Oh, it's not an ugly selfie. I'm looking forward to the call. And then you can jump into a bit of a conversation beforehand. Warms them up, gets them excited. Personalization is a big thing we do. And again, it just stands out because most people aren't willing to do. And usually success is found in the things that most people aren't willing to do, so you should be the person who's willing to do it. You get the point. And the last thing is obviously volume. You want to make sure you have a lot of volume of reach outs, of follow-ups, of checking in with them. You don't want to just try to give them a call one time if they no-show a call and then that's it. No, you want to check in, send them a message, send them an email, send them a voice message, send them this ugly selfie saying, hey, listen, you're still alive, I'm here. Like that stuff, and having the volume of it makes them realize, oh, this person actually does care. And these are, for the most part, just really solid reminders. If you have a sales process that works, you usually are doing a lot of this stuff, but things like personalization or volume, those are things people, as we start to scale, we tend to lose some of it because we try to automate everything and try to make everything super efficient. But in actuality, these are some of the biggest things that do make a big difference. Next one is branding. Now, branding is something that is really one of my weakest points. One of the biggest things people kind of get surprised about is when I talk about what I do in my coaching businesses. Like, I've never had a viral video, ever. I've never had a video that has gone viral and got a bunch of views, and it's probably because I haven't tried too hard, to be fair. Like, I don't really try to have the coolest content or the craziest reels or anything like that. And as a result, the majority of the money, if not all the money I've made with my coaching business, of course, I've had videos that have generated a lot of clients for us, but none of them have gone viral. None of them have gone viral on their own without us obviously spending some money on ads for it. I've done it all through cold traffic, and I love that because I can have control. But at the same time, branding makes such a big difference. And one of the things that he talks about inside the playbook is that when you create a personal brand and people recognize you, your cold traffic, your paid traffic attempts become a hell of a lot more profitable. So if you're running ads and you are a sales trainer, but nobody knows who you are, you have the best hooks and the best angles and the best copy and the best offer, but you're still going to have a high cost per book call, higher CPM, you have a lower click-through rate than if you were, say, Jeremy Miner. Jeremy Miner could have a way worse offer, a way worse ad, but because they know who he is and they recognize him, like, people are going to just naturally click. Why do you think Grant Cardone or Ty Lopez, why do you think their ads perform so well? It's because people just know who they are above all else. And so people sometimes try to copy people with big brands on the way that they do their ads, and it's like, well, why isn't it working for me? Well, it's because everyone knows who they are. If Kanye West ran an ad, was like, hey, if you want to make money online, DM me or something, people will still probably message you, Kanye West, a hell of a lot more looking to make money online than they will me, regardless of how good my ad is. I can't get away with that. And so you have to be a lot more clever. The point I'm trying to make is this, is that branding is something that amplifies all your paid traffic attempts. And for me, I think that's one of my biggest weak points. And so I got a lot of really good value out of the branding strategy in here. And again, I'm not going to touch on everything here. But branding is something that going into 2026, I want to take a lot more pride in and focus in, because it means that my attempts on ads and the funnels and the scaling and everything I do on that side will just be better because people will recognize me more, which is very, very cool. Now, even on this channel, I'm starting to build a bit more of a personal brand just for sort of being an entrepreneur and a business coach and actually running businesses. And one of the biggest things that Alex talks about is that if you're trying to build a brand in a specific sector, if we look at this one, for example, we'll separate my e-com stuff, which is mass market. We'll talk about this for a second. You want to be speaking to an audience that is growing, has money, easy to target, and is in some sort of pain. And when we look at this channel, what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a growing market, which is coaches, right? Because it's a growing market. You have money, right? You are making money with your coaching business, so you're starting to make money with your coaching business. You're easy to target. High-ticket coaches, pretty simple to explain. And then you're in pain, because realistically, whether it's a case of you're in pain because you need to make more money, or a case of you want to make more money, you're just not making as much money as you could be. If you are in a position where you're struggling to get past 10 grand a month and you've got bills and expenses, more of a case of like you're in pain in terms of like you need to make more money. But on the flip side, if you're sitting here watching, watching this video, you're making 50 grand a month, 80 grand a month, 100 grand a month, but you want to be at 250 grand a month, and you're going, oh, fuck, I know I could be there, but I'm not there yet, and something's wrong. That's a different type of pain. And again, that fits into that audience that I want to be speaking to. I'm not speaking to everybody, I'm speaking to a very specific kind of person. If that's you, book a call down below in the description. Let me help you make some more money. Then, what he talks about is you want to figure out what it is they like. So for you, most likely, you like more money, you like more clients, more profit, more strategies, less headache. You like upfront, you like honesty, you like transparency, you like strategies you can deploy and make money with immediately. And that's what I'm doing, is this channel, which brings us to the next point. I'm just making content about things that you like, things that you'll find valuable in a style that you love, because I've found that a lot of the coaches and people who are actually making money, they don't like these big, flashy, iman, gadzhi type videos. Like, I'm just talking directly to the camera on a MacBook with a little shitty microphone. Like, I'm not doing anything crazy, but it's the potency of the content, it's the value of the content, it's the upfront honesty of the content that stands out to that specific market, which is you. And so the way that I handle my branding and the way that I handle this channel moving forward is going to be quite different to the way that I handle my stuff with my e-commerce offer. It's more mass market. I have to be a bit more entertaining, a bit more polished, a bit more flashy, right? Those things do make a bit of a difference, and the content makes me very, very different, right? But I'm taking these things into consideration because I want to make sure I can make even more profit, have even higher ROAS. And if that means that I can do that by putting out more content and putting more effort in my personal brand, even though I like using ads a hell of a lot more, I'm going to have better results overall. And so that was one of the biggest things that I got out of the branding thing, is just, James, focus on your brand as well. Don't just try to run everything through ads. Now, Price Rise book, very simple. Talks about raising prices. I don't really raise my prices much. I've kind of got my prices pretty locked in at this point, so not a lot of value here. But in case you do charge pennies for your offer and you do want to go out there and increase your prices, it basically talks about, hey, here's an email you can send your clients, basically explaining the price rise, what it's going to be, what they're going to be getting, waving away any concerns they might have. I think it's pretty simple stuff. Now we've got the fast cash one, which I thought was genius, by the way. All this is basically every 90 days or so, you want to go out there and do a fast cash promo. Been going for a long time. Fast cash promo to your list, to your audience, basically breaking down, hey, this new premium offer, here's what it is. You make it super expensive, you make it super valuable, and then you just hammer it to your audience. And then after you've gone ahead and you've enrolled people, you've collected reviews and referrals and results, you then go ahead and then just cool down your list. Go back to adding value. Go back to, giving goodwill, creating valuable content, whether it's via emails, whether it's via YouTube, whatever it is. Then 90 days later, another expensive offer, another super valuable offer, and then you go ahead and sell it again. You rinse and repeat. It's a great way to, every 90 days, get people who are, I guess, interested but on the fence, kind of knock them off the fence, and you know, either get them to book in a call to find out more about the offer. You can send them direct to checkout, depending on what it is you're looking to do. But the idea is that you go ahead and you charge a lot. So it's not necessarily just going to be your flagship. You could do your flagship, but it's your flagship plus a bunch of cool bonus shit, and it's more expensive, so you make a lot more money. And there's a bunch of strategies in terms of how to hammer your list, how to design the offer. I think this was really, really good, and a really good reminder that sometimes you do need to shake the tree. There's a lot of people that maybe they didn't book in a call, or maybe they didn't respond to your call to action in your story, and it's not a case that they're gone. It's not a case that they've just vanished. Like, they're still there. They're still interested. They're still watching your stuff. The next case is very simply going out there and making sure that every 90 days or so, you have somebody there to shake the tree, and if there's anyone that's almost ready to rock and roll, they fall out and they fall into your little world. I thought that was great. And the last thing was go to the ads. And this was really, really good. And again, I don't want to give too much away from the hooks and the ads one, mainly because it's really the most valuable stuff for me, is the actual hooks and the angles and the scripting and stuff like that. Not because I want to keep them to myself. It's mainly because I just don't want ads to kill me. But the biggest thing is I'll put together some sort of video if you guys would like, where I'm kind of taking a few of these and I'm rewriting them for my offer. And then what I'll do is I'll do a video where I'll show you me filming them, launching them, the results of the ads, see if they compare better to the ones I run normally. If you like that, please let me know. I'd love to do it. Just got to get some people saying they want to see it in the first place. But the course about go to ads, again, talks about the fact that hooks are the most important thing, like we spoke about in the hooks thing. And you should reuse hooks from previous ads with slight spin. So if you've got ads that are doing really well, if you want to get more winning ads, and then take the hooks from those ads that are already working and just spin them again. Try them a slightly different way, different location. That's amazing. And if you don't know where to find those hooks, so you've done them all the ads that have done well for you previously, go to your organic content. Go to your organic content, see which ones had the highest engagement, highest view count, the ones that did really, really well, and then go, great, let me go ahead and take a hook from this organic piece of content, use it at the beginning of an ad, and then sell something. That will most likely do quite well. Biggest thing is you can even go to other competitors, other people in slightly different spaces, slightly different niches. If they've got a video that did really, really well, it's a lot of likes, a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, people really stuck around for it. Well, what do they say in the first 5 seconds? See if you can find a way to take that and spin it slightly to fit your offer or what it is that you do. I think this is absolutely amazing. And another thing that he touched on was the levels of awareness. And if you are obviously in the internet marketing space, which I assume you are, you wouldn't be watching at this point if you weren't, we know about the levels of awareness, right? Problem aware, solution aware, etc. And what we talked about was examples of how to write ads and hooks specifically, speaking to different levels of awareness. Because you could write a great hook that's performed very, very well, but it's only speaking to a specific part of the market that is hyper aware. You can change the hook to go through the levels of awareness to make sure you can open yourself up to a broader markets. For example, I'm reading a couple. A really good example was right here. Let me pull this up. Bear with me for a second. Cool. So let's just say, for example, right, you're speaking to the most aware part of the market, right? We talk about the different levels here, right? The most aware, usually is going to be offer driven. So do you want 50% off our best-selling XYZ product for the rest of the month, right? If they already know about the product, they're most aware, you can just throw an offer at them and they'll most likely buy. Then you can pull it down to product aware, which are usually proof driven. So discover why over 10,000 people chose XYZ to solve this problem last month. Because this is people who know about the product you sell but don't know that you sell it, which I think is cool. Solution aware, we go even further down. So they are usually going to be promise driven. So the fastest way to achieve XYZ result is this product specifically. So we are going out there and we're introducing the product. They're aware of the problem and they know the solutions exist, but they may not know about your specific product. So you're introducing the product itself. We go even further back, problem aware. So these ads are typically going to be pain driven. So are you tired of a specific problem? Well, there's a better way and a way to solve it. And then you can introduce what the next thing is. So you can, again, go through, hey, you know you have a problem, you know there's an issue, but you don't know there's solutions yet. We let them know that there's a solution, which leads us into the problem, then leads into all the other stuff we got there. And then the last one is completely unaware. So these ads are usually going to be curiosity driven. So, there's a hidden danger in your daily routine that's costing you money, time, health, whatever it is. And so it's targeting people who are unaware they have a problem in the first place by creating curiosity. And so, again, there's a million and one different examples of what these might look like. However, for this specifically, it reminds me that when I'm writing hooks, I should also be aware of where I'm speaking to. Am I just speaking to people who are most aware, or product aware, or solution aware? Maybe I should pull back a little bit further and start asking more curiosity-driven questions at the beginning of my ads to get people who are completely unaware and put them into basically this whole new world of internet marketing or building an e-commerce business. Or people who, they're tired of not making enough money in their day job, but they don't know what the best way is to go out there to make an extra income in general. They don't know that it's online. Maybe they don't know that online is the best way. Maybe they think they should just work overtime. That gets them into from problem aware to solution aware. All these different things. But that's what I thought was really cool about the Go to Ads book, because it just reminded me of the fact that we need to make sure we're speaking to people at different levels. And if you're really maxing out this specific hook that's been working really well for you, well, then maybe we need to open up the floodgates for more people to get to the point where that would work for them. And that comes down into speaking to those different levels and getting them up to that point as well. I thought that was absolutely amazing. And it's one of the things I'm going to be applying in my next ads shoot. And then there's a bunch of also just different ad templates in terms of like demonstration ads, testimonial ads, story ads, etc. Ways of basically going, hey, listen, I've got these hooks, these ads, but how can I put them into a format that would work well or resonate well with my market, which I thought was brilliant. And so look, there's a lot of books here. There's a lot of shit to learn. And I just want to give you kind of a rundown in terms of, for me specifically, with my kind of business as an offer owner and running a coaching business, here are some of the most valuable things that I took away from this. As somebody who's a bit more advanced, definitely not where I want to be, but in some cases where I am is where you might want to be. And where you are might be where I want to be. But at the end of the day, very valuable stuff. I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozi. I think this is a phenomenal purchase. You get a sick binder to put everything in, and the AI tool as well. I'm sure you've seen people talk about it at this point. Unless you've been living under a rock, the AI tool is actually really, really helpful. I think it's one of the coolest things about implementing this stuff is there's AI that's trained on everything, so you can just ask it specific business questions and it handles it for you. But that's basically for this video. Hope you found that valuable. Just some thoughts. If you want me to go deeper on specific things or talk more about specific strategies, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to do more videos about this stuff. I'm by no means here trying to get clicks off Alex's name. It was just the books are on my desk. I figured it'd be a fun way for, at the very least, you to see what it's like for me and my specific situation in my world as a high-ticket coach making some good money, how I apply this specific stuff and see if you can take anything away from it. But for now, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.